How do we know if capturing the pawn on d5 is a good idea for white? Let's count. Usually you want to have at least one more attacker than your opponent has defenders. Notice white has two attackers, the rook on d3 and the bishop on f3. Black, on the other hand, only has one defender, the rook on d8. Since white has one more attacker than black has defenders, white will make the first and the last capture, usually a good sign for the attacker. White makes the first capture with rook takes d5, capturing black's pawn. Black captures white's rook with rook takes d5. So far, white has only captured a pawn and black has captured a rook, but white gets the final capture with bishop takes d5, capturing black's rook. Notice that both sides captured a rook, but white also captured a pawn, meaning white won a pawn from the captures thanks to having one more attacker than black had a defender. Let's take a look at another position. In this position, notice that white has two attackers against black's pawn on d5, the rook on d4 and the bishop on f3. Black, however, has two defenders, the rook on d8 and the bishop on e6. So there's two attackers against two defenders. When there is the same number of attackers and defenders, the defense usually has the advantage. The reason why is that although the attacker captures first, the defense captures last. Let's see this idea in action. After bishop takes d5, white captures first, taking the pawn on d5, so white is currently up a pawn. Let's keep track of all the captures as we go along. Black captures white's bishop with rook takes d5. So black has captured a bishop and white only a pawn. After rook takes d5, white captures the black rook. So white has now captured a rook and a pawn, and black has only captured a bishop. White is in the lead for now, but black gets the last capture with bishop takes d5, capturing white's rook. Let's review the captures. Black captured a bishop and a rook, and white captured a pawn and a rook. Since both sides captured a rook, they cancel each other out, and we see what's left. Black captured a bishop, and white captured a pawn. This means black won a bishop for a pawn. Since two attackers did not succeed against two defenders, white needs to add one more attacker to the d5 pawn. Can you see how white can do this? That's right. Knight to c3. White now has three attackers against two defenders. Black would like to add a third defender to keep the balance between attackers versus defenders, but black cannot add a third defender on the next move. So black plays knight to g6, dreaming of playing knight e7 on the next turn in order to add that third defender to the d5 pawn. White should not allow this to happen and should capture the d5 pawn right away. Does it matter which way white captures? It sure does. When you decide to capture, it's a good idea not to capture with your most valuable attacking piece first. Since the bishop and knight are both worth 3 points, the 5-point piece, the rook, should not capture first. Why? Because after rook takes d5, black is able to trade white's most valuable attacker for black's least valuable defender, the bishop. So after bishop takes d5 and knight takes d5, notice that black captured white's rook and white captured a bishop and a pawn. Black gained 5 points and white only gained 4 from these trades. This means black got the better deal from the captures. Since capturing with the most valuable attacking piece lost material for white, white should capture with the least valuable attacking piece first. The least valuable attacking pieces are the knight and the bishop, so either capture would be fine. Let's capture with the bishop first. After bishop takes d5, white makes the first capture, gaining a pawn. Black captures white's bishop with bishop takes d5. Black is currently up a bishop pawn by counting the knight on g5, that when there are an equal number of defenders against attackers, that the defense will get the better deal from the captures? Not always. In this position, white has two attackers against f7, the knight on g5 and the bishop on c4. Black has two defenders, the queen on e7 and the king on e8. White captures a pawn with knight takes f7. If black takes the knight, the queen must make the first capture because the king would put itself into check by capturing the knight. Since the queen is worth more than both of white's attackers, the knight and the bishop, black will lose material after queen takes f7, bishop takes f7 check, king takes f7. White captured a queen and a pawn worth 10 points for a bishop and a knight worth 6 points, so white gained 4 points from the captures. Counting is a very useful idea, but remember not to blindly follow the counting method. One of the most powerful tactics in chess is the fork. It's another way of describing a double attack where you are attacking two or more pieces at the same time with one piece. The most notorious of all forks are those done by the tricky knights. Let's take a look. In this position, white appears to be in serious trouble. White is down a significant amount of material, but the game isn't over yet. If white's knight could somehow attack the king and queen at the same time, the game would turn completely around. In this case, knight e7 check saves the game for white. It forks the king with check and attacks the queen. So once the king moves, white is able to win the queen. Let's take a look at another example. In this position, white can fork not one, not two, not three, but four pieces all at the same time with the move knight e7 check. This move is known as a family fork because the knight forks the entire family of black pieces. Now that the king has escaped check, which piece should the knight capture? Capturing either of the rooks is fine, but the best move is to win the queen. So far, we've only looked at knight forks. They sure are fun, aren't they? Well, it turns out other pieces can deliver forks or double attacks as well. In this position, white has great control of the center, with two pawns already placed in the middle of it. Notice the pawn on e4 can march forward, advancing into black's territory. What would happen then? White creates a pawn fork. Remember, forks are most effective when you attack two greater valued pieces with a less valued piece. In this case, the pawn attacks the greater valued bishop and knight at the same time. When one moves, the pawn will capture the other piece. For example, when the bishop moves, the pawn captures the knight. And after the pawn is recaptured, white gains a knight for a pawn using a fork tactic. Finally, in this position, white has a queen versus a rook. This isn't the easiest endgame to win, but in this position, white's in luck. White can win black's rook by using a fork. Can you see how white can check the black king and attack the unprotected rook at the same time? That's right, queen to d1 check, checking the black king and attacking the unprotected rook on a4. After the king moves, say king to c7, white wins the rook with queen takes a4. Another of the most important tactics in chess is the pin. Imagine a pin being stuck into a piece and through the board, making it impossible to move. The pin is used to freeze other pieces and to win material. Sometimes in chess, we say win material as a way of describing a series of exchanges where you come out on top. There are two types of pins. The first is the absolute pin. In this example, the knight on e2 is pinned to this square because if it tries to move, notice the black rook would be able to take white's king, which is completely illegal. Because the knight cannot move, this also means the queen on d4 doesn't have any protection. Black can simply capture the queen, and again, white cannot recapture because the knight is absolutely pinned. In this position, the pawn on c7 is pinned by the bishop on a5. Notice the pawn could move, but then the bishop would be able to take the queen. We call this a relative pin. Even though you technically can move the pawn, you wouldn't want to. In this last example, after white plays knight takes c6, black makes the terrible decision to play queen takes c6, recapturing the knight with the queen, but lining the queen up with the king. So white can now play bishop to b5, pinning the queen to the king. Notice the queen would like to leave this diagonal, but it cannot. It's absolutely pinned. And if the queen tries taking the bishop, then the knight would simply take the queen. White will surely win material by using this beautiful tactic of the pin. Let's see you try it out.